Hi guys! Do you find yourself overwhelmed with emotional reactions all the time? Like here you are going along through life, something happens and you get this big emotional wave. And as soon as that happens, you kind of get stuck in the wave. And then the wave gets bigger and bigger, and before long you're in this big emotional reaction to something that happened that probably is not proportionate to the actual event. So how many of you had that experience? Put a yes in the comments if that's you. So this is something that a lot of us feel, right? It's this state of constantly responding to life, but not by our own choice. Not something that you decided, but something that it's almost like it was decided for you by your own emotions, right? So if this is something that you experience, put a yes in the comments so that I know that this is hitting the spot, okay? Oh, and before I forget, the link to a gift for you is in the comments that way, I think, from how you're watching. So whatever it is next to the video. Make sure you click that. I would love you to get that gift. All right. For the ones of you who don't know who I am Eugenia Oganova. I am a soul strategist and a founder of Transcension Gate. What that means is that I help you discover what is your life's purpose and own your self-worth so that you feel enough living that purpose, and that we design clear steps on the path to your destiny. All right, so coming back to the feeling of this reactory state of being, when everything that happens in your life creates the response that doesn't necessarily feel like you're in control of your own life or even of your own feelings. Here you are having a great day, everything is fine, then something happened, and let's say it's a minor annoyance. And when that annoyance happened though, you got upset. And once you got upset, that emotion got bigger and bigger, and before long you're really upset and you're having a bad day, when all that could have happened was one tiny little thing that sent you off course. How many of you had that experience? Right? Put a yes in there if that's you. What about something like an event happens of some sort, let's say somebody tells you something, or you missed a phone call that you were really waiting for, or something like that, and then you start to be upset with yourself. And instead of just noticing that, okay, this happened, now what do I do about it, you kind of get stuck in the being upset part. And then before long, all that happens is suddenly everything else that you ever was upset with yourself about is right there. It snowballs from the tiny little, oh, I'm, not on time, let's say, so I was late, or I missed something, or I did it not quite as well as I would like to. Okay, that happens, that's life. But then that grows into, and I'm a horrible person, and I will never get it, and no matter what I do, I'm always not as good as others, and whatever else is your personal pathway of snowballing. How many of you know that, right? You know what I'm talking about. That is not a fun feeling, but it happens a lot of times because we are reacting to life. Instead of consciously choosing, we're reacting. So, for a moment, let's imagine what would that be if we didn't react to life. We will still feel things, right? But that feeling would be more of a conscious experience in the moment. So something happened, you feel, let's say, upset from that, or angry about it, or uncomfortable, or embarrassed. Okay, then in that moment, if we allow ourselves to not go into the pathway that we habitually go into, we actually feel more confident. We can learn something in our life, so we stop repeating things. This is actually how we can also prevent self-sabotage. Most of the self-sabotage that happens is actually because of this. When we essentially take ourselves out of the game before we even start by snowballing our emotion. And then it feels like somebody else is in control of you, of your internal mood. Not your own conscious self, but something else, which, could be perception that it's your lower self in control of your mood, which is true in that circumstance, or it could be that somebody else is in control. This is how we end up with blaming others because, oh, you ruined my day. You did this and now I feel that. this is when we actually allow someone else to affect us to the extent that it changes our inner state. It's a choice. It's, in this case, an unconscious choice, but it's still actually a choice. It's just we're not the ones consciously making it. It's our lower self that's making it. Our lower self is our fear. It's all the issues and fear and all the karmic crap that we essentially ended up with. All of that. It's simply what we meant to learn but haven't learned yet. So it's not an enemy. It's not something that's trying to sabotage us because it's against us. It's actually for us. It's just immature. So it's trying to protect us. The lower self is trying to protect us by creating this emotional reaction and then letting us get stuck in it. And the more we get stuck in our emotional reaction, the bigger it gets. And when it gets really big, before long, your entire energy field is overwhelmed by this charge of whatever the emotion was. But now it's not an original emotion anymore. Now it's whatever else you put on top of it because of whatever issues that we already had with it, right? Like, let's say somebody said something to us that was not very nice. Now we have a choice. What do we do about that? Do we dismiss that? Or do we say, okay, I need to speak up and say something to this person? Or do we just take it in and say, all right, well, this person is just having a bad day and I love them, so I'm just choosing to not take this personally. Okay, when we do that, we now are free from that original emotion that made us feel bad. We move on. So what happens when we don't move on? Right? Somebody said something bad to us. We felt bad about that, how it made us feel. But then we bring up other stuff that makes us feel bad. Like, oh, and they always do this, and now I'm like this, and then my life is like that, and because of it I can't, blah, 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 and so on. I'm sure you all have your own pathway of how the snowballing happens. Every single human being does that. I don't think there's a human being on earth that doesn't have that to some extent. But the key here is that we want to get masterful in not allowing our lower self to snowball our emotions. So the solution here is being an observer, not only the experiencer. When we get stuck in just experiencing, then we're constantly just bouncing off like, oh, this happened, oh, this happened, oh, this happened. And it's just too much in our field. And it becomes this unsafe feeling like you're being bombarded by things. When in reality, nothing's coming at you. It's internal and then amplifying, which means we can change that by being neutral. So when something happens, we have a response. That's healthy. But then observe the response. In other words, like imagine you take yourself in half. 50% of you is experiencing this, like, oh, this really hurt, or this made me very upset, or oh, wow, now I really feel kind of embarrassed, or whatever. But the other 50% is watching this, not experiencing the emotion, but watching it from the outside. And the neutral part, the observer part, is the one that's looking at what does this mean? Is this real? What belief does this connect to? Do I even agree with whatever this feeling is? Or is this just my self-sabotage talking? In other words, in order to not snowball it, we have to have the observer. That's the solution to preventing this snowballing issue of emotional responses. Because then we're able to understand why are we having the response we're having. We don't just react to everything. We react only to things that trigger us. Why are they triggering us? Because we have some lesson connected to them, or they would not be triggering us. So look for that. Notice next time when you're having a strong emotional reaction to something, especially if it's really negative, why? What is it in you here that you still need to learn so that instead of falling into the feeling, which doesn't you no good essentially, because then it just collapses you more inside while this ball of emotion gets bigger and overwhelms you. But instead of falling into the feeling? What if you allow yourself to look at the feeling and then dig for the lesson? What am I learning here? What am I teaching myself by having this experience? Was it showing me about my beliefs? That's how we resolve this snowball, right? Right, let's see. Jody asks, when I get angry, I cannot shake it off for days. Like I'm stuck in a cloud of fire. How can an observer help me here? Oh, well, you have to look at the initial reaction of fire. You're totally correct that once you're already in a cloud of fire, it's much harder to find your observer at all. But the key here is to catch it before that happens. Like when you get angry, there is an initial response, right? Like something happened and you feel anger. Great. Right there is when you want that half and half. Part of you feels the anger, part of you looks at the anger. Why are you feeling angry? That's where you can catch it before it becomes the cloud of fire, as you say. So if we look at it right at the beginning, then we can look at the lesson. Besides, anger is always proportionate to pain that we're feeling. So chances are pain is probably uncomfortable for you to experience directly, and anger kind of covers up the pain because it feels safer, sort of, to feel anger. It's just as uncomfortable, really, but it feels like you have a little more power when you feel angry, and you don't have that power when you feel pain. But actually the lesson is to go move past that anger, what's underneath, and that is pain of some sort. So something actually emotionally hurt. A lot of times even simply acknowledging that there is an emotional pain already helps you move on from the anger, because now at least you're not angry anymore. You're now feeling the hurt that you felt, but now you can resolve the hurt because you are aware of its existence. Okay. Cindy asks, I feel overwhelmed all the time, like everything is just too hard. What can I do to calm down? All right, Cindy. Well, that is experience that a lot of people feel. This feeling that life is just too much. It's coming at you from all sides, and it's just, I feel like I'm going to just self-destruct because it's so much. So when that happens, the issue is boundary or not having one. So when we don't have a container around us, we allow all the stimuli to come in. And when all the stimuli comes in, after a while, we start reacting to it kind of in a frantic manner. And when we do, that's the state, exactly the state we end up with. That, life is happening everywhere. It's just too hard and I can't do it. So the solution to that state, that frantic, oh my God, life is too much and it's too hard, is one, make a boundary. Imagine like you're in a big egg and it's very quiet on the inside. So two, cut off all the stimuli. Which means if you're on the phone with someone, when you start to feel that, hang up the phone. If you're in a room filled with people, let's say it's an event of some sort, or you're in a family gathering or whatever, when this is going on, get out of there. Walk to your car and sit for a moment, or even go to the bathroom, close the door so you're by yourself in some sort of a closed space. And even if you can still hear them, they're not like literally right next to you. So sometimes if you're like at your own, safe space, like in your home, maybe you can lie down and put something over your eyes so that it's really dark for a moment, even if it's during the day. So cutting off all the stimuli. It's just, you just go in a zone of being in a void, just black space, like you're floating among the stars. There's nothing going on. There's such a relief that happens when we do that. And if we do that in a boundaried state, as an egg, we feel safe in addition to it. That allows the backlog of all the stuff that we did let come in, that we kind of didn't need to, but we did. It allows all this backlog to be cleaned up. Kind of like our field, catches up to cleaning it up. Once that happens, you actually feel safer, calmer, you can feel like you can think again. Great. That's when you can go back and face whatever it is you were doing. Go back in the room, call somebody back, whatever. But that's how you kind of make life manageable. Otherwise, too much energy ends up short-circuiting you. So the solution is always cutting off the stimuli and being in a clear boundary, and observing what is going on. Why are you having reaction to something? In this case, it's not even something in particular, but once there is no overwhelm, then you can actually look at the particular reactions so that they can be cleaned up. All right, so what I would like you guys to do right now is to tell me what is your own recent sort of situation that you had with this feeling. When some emotional reaction happened, you know, something happened, you had a really strong emotional reaction, and then what did you do about it? How did you handle it? Did you let it snowball, or were you able to resolve it? And if yes, then how? I would love to know that. So comment below, what is your way of how you dealt with that? Okay, and don't forget to get the link, you know, click on the link so you get your free gift, and like the video. All right, bye-bye.